And Tejas Adeoye in our Abuja studio for FCT Brief. Good morning, guys. It's over to you now.
Good morning, Veronica, and the rest of the team. It's good to hear from you this morning.
Good morning, Veronica, and good morning, colleagues over there in Lagos. It's morning season for Nigeria, 7 days of mourning, and Tuesday declared public holiday by the federal government.
Yeah. Well, former President Muhammadu Buhari will be laid to rest today. I really don't know how to feel about it. I feel very down, but a lot of Nigerians, feel differently about him.
Exactly.
While some laud his achievements for maybe infrastructural development, his strict resistance against corruption. Some would say that he didn't, quite perform well. He was quiet on some issues that bothered on Nigerians. Talk about the level of poverty, talk about insecurity, and, the NSAS, what happened during the NSAS time, a lot of youths, that really turned the youths against him at the time, and also the Twitter ban at the time. Some felt that it was a way of trying to stifle the public from free speech. Well, for some would say that had its role to play in tackling fake news. A lot of mixed reactions still greet the legacies of former President Muhammadu Buhari, but we'll just say he continues to rest in peace, and may history, judge him right.
Exactly. For me, I think his war against indiscipline stands out, and I just wish that we could have a blend of his war against indiscipline and the Nuhu Ribadu fight against corruption, and you get them blended together and represented in a way that it will whip order back into our public life. We need those things now. And as good as it makes his final journey home, I think posterity will have a place for him, whether good or bad. And no matter how you want to judge him, he has paid his own price, he's done his own beats, and we that are alive, we have our own individual beats to also do.
No matter how bad it is, I believe there are still lessons to learn from President Muhammadu Buhari. It can be completely bad, you understand? Yeah. And I don't think it's right for anybody to celebrate someone that has died. We'll all die one day. We are not living here alive. So we should pick lessons from the lives of people.
It's also subject to debate.
Well, if you say so.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. And this is FCT Brief. We are turning our spotlight on one of Nigeria's most influential and polarizing figures, Muhammadu Buhari. From the military barracks to the presidential villa, Buhari's journey is woven into the fabric of Nigeria's post-independence history. And this morning, we will be exploring the man behind the uniform, the leader behind the podium, and the legacy that continues to shape the nation. Muhammadu Buhari's story begins in the Nigerian army, where he quickly earned a reputation for discipline, loyalty, and a no-nonsense approach to leadership. In 1983, he became Nigeria's military head of state following a coup that toppled the civilian government of President Shehu Shagari. His short military rule was marked by a crackdown on corruption and indiscipline, summed up in his controversial war against indiscipline Y campaign. Though praised by some for restoring order, his regime was also criticized for human rights abuses and a stifling of press freedoms. 3 decades later, the former general re-emerged as a politician, winning the 2015 presidential election under the All Progressives Congress APC. Buhari campaigned on 3 main pillars: security, anti-corruption, and economic revival. His administration saw progress in infrastructure development, particularly in rail transport and road construction, alongside the introduction of social investment programs.
But his presidency was also marred by economic challenges, rising inflation, and increased insecurity, especially in the north. Critics accused him of nepotism, a sluggish response to crisis, and a clampdown on dissent. As Buhari bowed out in 2023 after 2 terms, Nigerians were left with mixed reflections. Supporters laud his integrity and efforts to reduce systemic corruption. The Treasury single account, whistleblower policy, and targeted anti-graft campaign stand out as key achievements. Yet, the rise in poverty, unemployment, and persistent insecurity under his watch remains stains on his legacy. For many, Buhari's tenure is a paradox defined by both promise and underperformance. Muhammadu Buhari, the soldier who fought for order, the president who promised change and the leader whose legacies continue to spark debate. Whether seen as a patriot, a disciplinarian, or a missed opportunity, his imprint on Nigeria is undeniable. And for more on the legacies of late Muhammad Buhari, we have in the studio a professor of strategy and development, Commonwealth Institute of Advanced and Professional Studies, Anthony Kila. Professor Anthony Kila, it's good to have you in our studio this
Good morning. Good to be here. Good morning, Shiva.
Well, let's begin. You were one of the strong voices who criticized President Buhari's administration, former President Buhari's administration, especially given your civil society background. Now, if you look back, would you say it was all bad, or are there certain achievements you believe that stand out during his administration?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that I was also one of the strong voices who really supported him, and not only supported him, actually actively campaigned for him, using my personal resources, time, intellect, and energy to make sure he wins the election. And after that, then I became one of his strong critics. I think the analysis of the afterlife of Buhari, in broad terms, we have to look at it from three angles. One is personal, one is institutional, and one is political. You know, in terms of the personal side, Buhari, whatever you say about him, on the personal level, you know, first of all, let's the usual thing. Condolences to his family and friend. That's a personal side. On the personal side, he's the loss of a father, a friend to many people, and those people feel pain. No matter how old somebody is, I lost my dad and everybody was telling me to dance, and I could feel, all I could feel was pain. So, you know, to those people it is pain. And still on a personal level, a boy who grew up to be a soldier and a general, a community leader, president, minister, is an achievement. You know, he's somebody you use to teach others, say, walk this way and you could get to the greatest heights. The feat he has achieved are not mean feats. On the personal level, you can use that. On an institutional level, you can see the way he's been treated. Is it a state function? Because he has reached that height. And on this note, I personally feel it is important to point out and to give kudos to President Tinubu for doing this, because he didn't have to. You see, he has gone beyond the line to really show that we're celebrating a head of state. There is a thought behind it. A country that does not recognize its past leaders is not a country that has what we call continuum. It means it's breaking with tradition. So President Tinubu's presidency, by doing this, sending the signal that there's a continuum in the country, will recognize the past. I hate to sound bad, but I doubt Buhari would do this much if roles were reversed. Let's just put it that way. So that must be said. Now, from a political level, you've said it all. You asked me if it's all good and bad. Truth is, when you juxtapose the life of a politician, analyze the life of a politician, you have to juxtapose what they promised and what they delivered. The Buhari that contested the election was a charismatic leader that was a symbol of change, a symbol of the victory over the battle against corruption, against insecurity, against poverty. It was that promise. Overall, we can say Buhari is a promise unkept. Because when he got to power, the life of millions of Nigerians, especially those ones that were shouting, say Baba, and were following, was not changed positively. So to that extent, I believe, as much as I criticize it, I believe that Buhari was a man that did his best. But overall, his best was not good enough as a politician. So in a way, if you look at his life, he ran many races. The worst race was the last lap. If Buhari had not become president of Nigeria, today people would have been saying, if only he ever became president, he would have turned Nigeria around. There's a lesson for people. Partisan politics can destroy the magic in people. First, they'll disgrace you while you're contesting, bring out your most horrible secret. Then when you get there, they will compare you to the poetry of campaign and the prose of governance. And this is what we're seeing with the Buhari.
Yeah, Prof. You just made a statement that partisan politics brings out the disgrace in people. Does it have to be that way? Or is it a Nigerian phenomenon? Because if you look at the Buhari as a military head of state, no-nonsense man, a man. Actually, one of the reasons why he came out of campaign and people celebrated was because of his achievement as a military head of state. Was it difficult for him to achieve such a feat as a civilian president? Or is it something in the politics that kind of hijack a leader and want to run the leader aground?
I think it's a mix of both things, with more to say. When I was talking about the institutional importance of his role, one of the things, allow me to mention, is that one of the things I'm in Abuja for is a national summit on the Constitution. And, you know, in honoring and remembering Buhari, it has been moved. It was due to start today. But it has been moved forward till tomorrow. So just allow me to show that. That's the kind of recognition. You put two elements in your question. One is, does politics have to be this bad, the way it is practiced, as in bringing out the thing? And the other thing is that once you get there, does it absorb you? I think overall, it's the nature of partisan politics to be messy. Every country just has its extent to what it goes, the value, you know. I think whilst we dwell on some trivial things in Nigeria, our level of scrutiny is not even good enough. You know, if we think what our people go through here is bad, you should try other climes. And I believe it is legitimate for anybody that wants to run for office to be truly scrutinized. And if there's anything shady, dodgy in their life, it should be brought out. It's not enough to say that's not your business. We don't have to go for politics. No doctor recommends it. You could remain a carpenter, a dentist, a broadcaster, or a photographer. But the moment you say, I, out of many, want to lead the rest of us, I think it is legitimate for us to put a light on all your life. That I agree with. So nothing is too messy, as long as it's true. But then again, if people lie, I don't think you need new rule. I believe in thou shalt not lie. If thou lie, thou shalt be punished. That's a very simple rule. You don't need a lot of new things to do that. To the extent of why is it that people look good before they enter politics, and then when they get there, they can't perform. In the Nigerian scenario, I think there's a systemic problem, which is our constitutional setup. The way governance is framed, the way it's structured, sucks away the best out of people. You know, first of all, it's too expensive to run for office. There are too many interests that are not clear, that are opaque. We have a mixture of a traditional Nigerian African, people like to say Africa. I wonder what Nigerians say Africa when some of them don't even been to Ghana before. Let's say Nigeria, because most people don't have scientific proof of what obtains elsewhere. There's a mixture in Nigeria of our traditional barbarism, i.e. deference to age, deference to title, which is in conflict with the modern liberal democracy we try to hold. I refer our viewers to a poem of J. Pepe Clark called Piano and Drums. You know, two sounds that try to mix together in an uncoordinated connubium that does not help things. So we have all those tensions going on. And one of the best ways to actually sit down is to look at our constitution and say, let's do it in the way that so who get in power, the best can come out of there. I believe that those who have ruled Nigeria before, at any stage, past leaders and some present, need to look at themselves and say, have I done well? What have I done well? What have I not done well, and why? And maybe they should push out those why to say, perhaps the system does not allow me to perform well. The magic that the General Buhari brought to fore as the politician Buhari was possible because he worked in a framework where you did not need a lot of deliberations. By decree, you could do a lot of things. It also worked in a framework where, I must say, you know, I think the general head of state was overrated because the scrutiny is not so much. People who are in my age bracket, who are perhaps youth corpers or in university those days when Buhari was head of state in '93, if they're honest to themselves, it wasn't a great time. It was a time all of a sudden when people were queuing for things. Something that the last time you saw it, you were a child during the Biafra War, you know, where there was real scarcity, there was expression like essential commodity. But because there's a belief, and this is a false belief, because there's a belief that Nigerians are barbarians and the best way to treat them is to ill-treat them then became a quest for a strong man. I want people to think, the countries that work in the world, they're not guided by strong men. They're guided by simple, clear principle where everybody is responsible. We need to think or rethink those kind of things. And I think, allow me to repeat, I think a rethink of our constitution is what we really need to look at this thing.
Okay. Well, let's hear the voice on the street about what Nigerians have to say about the general former President Muhammadu Buhari. Let's take a listen.
I can say he's the worst president we have ever had. All the calamity we are facing in Nigeria today is the reason behind it. Because he vowed he must rule this country. And he ruled the country and we become slaves in our own countries. With mass burials across Nigeria, which is, it has never happened before. All the legacy they are leaving, Nigerians will not forgive them.
A very good president, and he did his best. His effects cannot be significant because it fails inside an ocean of bad water. It's a disciplinarian. President Muhammadu Buhari is that kind of leader that will, instead of giving you an instruction to do a particular thing, he will do it so that you can learn from him. He's a very diligent man, he's an intelligent man, and he's somebody that likes to do it so that you will see him. So he's a great loss to the nation, and he tried his best. He gave the nation his best.
A lot of things actually during his time were things like projects were standstill. It was not actually done as it's supposed to be, but he has done his own part, and we can appreciate the one he did. And to me, during his tenure, like what people are passing through, the hunger and a lot of things that are so bad these days, it wasn't like that. At least that was different.
Leadership is not easy. He tried as a president, but there are some areas he could, uplift the situation of Nigerians, but he couldn't do it. I would say that we are missing him. But death is death. We don't mock somebody who is not alive again. May Allah grant him rest.
Well, there you have it. Voice on the street. Some have quite a lot of good things to say about former President Muhammadu Buhari, while some otherwise, but we won't speak ill of the dead here. But I must say, Professor Kila, a lot of Nigerians felt disconnected from the President Buhari administration, especially after how the NSAS protest was handled. Do you think that moment overshadowed other meaningful things that was done under his administration?
Well, I think, yes. The short answer is yes, I think it did. But I also think, in a way, Buhari lost a lot of opportunity for greatness because I think he misread the nation, or those of us who, sold him to the country, maybe misread the person he is. Nigeria is a touchy-feely nation. That is why, for example, we have this idea you don't speak ill of the dead, and we're very we're very cautious about this kind of thing. Buhari got to power as a charismatic leader. Very important to hold on this point. He was the kind of man millions of people were hailing and thronging around. If you get to power as a charismatic leader, you don't get there and become aloof. And that is what Buhari did. It must be said. You see, I say these things as a scholar who's worried about the present and the future. Buhari is gone. If you believe in heaven or hell, he'll probably be there. If you don't believe it, then it's over. Whatever you believe in, he doesn't really care about what we're saying about him, if he can care at all. Our conversation should be about the present and the future. And the message should be the lesson to be learned. You're very right, TJ, when you say we should learn some lessons. The lesson to be learned is that for present and future leaders, that whatever you do, people will judge you. In the judgment of Buhari, I was saying, he's like a man who won the lottery and lost his ticket. To the extent that he went to power, charismatic, very loved, controversial or not, he had a massive vote of voter. He could have asked for anything Nigerians would have endured. But as president, he got there and he became aloof. He became not communicable, not interested in communicating. And that cast a shadow over him. If you get to power as a charismatic person, people expect you to banter, to be out there with them. You know, you have to get out. It's part of the magic of a charismatic leader. To be seen among the people. You need to touch babies. You need to carry them. You need to crack jokes. This must be said. Even Buhari did his favor himself. Those of us who knew him personally, a lot of people don't know. Buhari is a man with a very high sense of humor. Some of his jokes are dry, but they are jokes, you know. But he was a wry person who would get jokes, even contrary to what people think. Even when you laugh at him, you know, he will call you as a prof. You can see my neck. You know, he will tell you, "I heard you saying this about me." He was that kind of person. It wasn't as, I think it was better on personal level than he appeared in public. Maybe his image makers did not do a good job about that. But then again, we have to be careful. In a country of millions of people, you can't base your judgment on meeting people personally, because most people will not meet you. And that is why you guys become so important, because it is that image they see. What our viewers are seeing on the screen now, you know, the image of the man waving to millions of people that are shouting with him, shouting, "Say Baba," going with him. As president, he did not continue that momentum. You know, he became this absent president that was only heard by word. Some people argue that he was doing that to be a man of institution. But you can't become a man of institution when you are elected as a man of the people. There has to be some kind of holistic, connected, continuous coordination of his action, which I think he lacked.
Yeah, Prof, since we're talking about the man Buhari and how it connects us with our future,
yes,
there's this aspect of this late president, the one that he easily connects with his people, the man who came into election with about 12 million votes,
yes.
And when he goes for a campaign, you see the people that follow him. And people actually said that Buhari was not a man who gives out money to followers, so it's an organic followership.
I can testify to that.
Now, how did he get this kind of high connection with the people? And how will future leaders also ensure that, look, when you have this kind of, how can you end this kind of connection, and how can you sustain and impact positively on that connection?
Well, thank you very much for that question, because that is a very high level political question, political science question, politology. The point is, what leadership is about, whether it's brand leadership, product leadership, service leadership, or political leadership, or communication leadership, is your ability to simplify a complex and wide range of issues into a simple formula and present an answer to it. What the Buhari brand, what the Buhari image, philosophy was able to do is to understand that, generally speaking, the biggest problem of Nigeria, to many Nigerians, is corruption. What is the answer to corruption? A man that is seen not to be corrupt, e.g. Buhari. What is the second biggest problem to Nigeria in 2014, 2015? Insecurity after corruption. Who is the best to tackle insecurity? A general that was known to have fought Maitasini.
Yeah.
You know, that was the image. So you put together in one body, Mr. Anti-Corruption, strong general. Idea was, wow, this would do it. But here's the thing. Buhari won power in 2015 by increasing the amount of vote he had before. Because we talk about when he won, we also need to remember he ran many times when he didn't win. Yeah. So he brought the vote he had before he won, then added some to it. But guess what? After he won, those votes went down. The second time he ran, he had less votes than he had before. That is the magic of governance going. That is the prose of governance that diminishes the poetry of campaign. That is what you see there. So to your extent, moving to the future, how does one do it? The future president of Nigeria, the current one and the ones that will come later, they need to learn to read what is the biggest issue of Nigeria, then try to embody themselves as the one that can do it. So if you come a riverine area in Nigeria, I like to see Nigeria as a federation. I am not even fascinated about this one man, everybody looking at the presidency. I would like to see Nigeria where power, responsibility issues are divided across the nation. I like to imagine Nigeria that your Nigeria, if you live in a desert part, is different from Nigeria of a riverine area. So the great Nigerian leader of the riverine area, for example, will be somebody who will be able to connect with blue marine. You know, the blue economy will be somebody who will think How do we use the boat to do things? How do we use this our water to do a lot of things? The great leader of the desert area of Nigeria will be somebody who will be thinking, how do we make agriculture work in this dry land? How do we turn this our desert to something that can create wealth and job? And that's the way to think about that, you know, the way things. How do we get this our young, brilliant people who, without, I say, notwithstanding government, are selling to the world and earning in dollars, using their skills and their creativity? How do we harness this, you know, disjointed energy to make something big? That's the way to think about it. We need a leader who understands our potential, our limits, and our aspirations, and can then put it together. That's the kind of way to become that leader you're talking about. Because I don't think, somebody's going to come out and say, I'm Mr. Anti-Corruption, and everybody believe him again. That ticket is lost.
Well, the Twitter ban during his presidency also sparked a lot of reactions. Some believed it helped tackle fake news, while others felt it was an attack on free speech. Well, where do you stand on that? And would you say this action shaped how Nigerians saw his leadership?
Well, I think it affected the way the leadership was done. I think that's a very bad error. I have had opportunity to speak directly to his Minister for Communication, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, and I say to him what I said in private, that was one of the worst moves that administration did. You see, there is a tendency to believe that every new thing, you need a new law, you need a policy. It's not true. You know, great societies don't have a lot of laws. The issue of thou shalt not lie is good enough. You can have your opinion. You know, you can look at me if you have the audacity to say Anthony Kila is stupid. You know, that's your opinion. And it also says something about you, because it says something about your education, your exposure, your experience, and the environment you grew in. If you're going to look at me and say you're stupid. But you cannot say I'm short. You cannot say I'm a woman. You cannot say I'm slim. You cannot say I have no beard. At least in the picture in front of you. That would be a lie. So we need to find a way to know that everything is legitimate except lying. And a society that cannot live with that is a society that will verge on barbarism and that will make the leader look like a dictator, like somebody that want to stifle voices.
Okay. Let's look at it this way. The late Tai Solarin, when he handled the People's Bank, it was said that the People's Bank became deep in corruption, but he came out as a very clean man. We also have the former president that a lot of people will still agree that he came out clean, but a lot of people around him were deep in corruption. Now, how can we present a system where the hangers on power, their influence on power is reduced, so that whoever has the vision to run the system runs the system clean without the undue influence and hijack of certain forces?
Well, I think three things need to be said about that. Number one is, generally speaking, if you rule a group of people, you need two elements to ensure that that thing does not happen. One is transparency. The other is accountability and consequence. So it's CAR. C for consequence, A for accountability. C for consequence, A for accountability, and T for transparency. So you need to put that in your governance. But I also think that there's a bit of indulgence about politicians, because politicians are people we like. They have followers. They don't have stakeholders. So I've never bought into the myth that Mr. A is a good man. Oh, actually, let's put Madam B, because we tend to say bad things about only men, TJ. But there's the one we use the example. When it's men, it's bad. When it's good thing, we bring everybody together. So whether Mr. A or Madam B is good and the people around him are the ones bad, I've never bought into that myth. The buck stopping from the leader. The leader is responsible. He hires them. He should be able to manage them. Have you ever heard about somebody says about a bank MD, the man is good but his director is bad? You don't say that about that, because they deal with stakeholders. Because at the end of every year, people measure them. It is their money in play. You ask what rules that we need to do. What we need to do is to find a way we have a system where those who are governed are truly responsible and they are accountable for what they do. I have a radical idea that I'm not sure can be justiciable. I'm not sure can be taken in court. I believe, for example, that if we want a country that works, one of the things we can do is to let people, when they campaign, deposit their manifesto and their promise of governance, and it becomes like a legal document.
All right.
To say I'm going to create 100 million jobs or 1 million jobs, and to say that if I don't do it out of the 1 million I want to create, if I don't create at least 50,000 by the first year, maybe they should come and look at me and say I'm not doing well. That's one of the advantages of a parliamentary government. In a parliamentary government, there is continuous review of the head of government. The presidential system, we don't have that.
All right, Professor, that's where we leave the conversation this morning. Though we look at the life of former President Buhari, we hope that, leaders, our current leaders, pick a thing or two, even as young aspiring ones pick a thing or two from his journey, positive lessons also.
I hope so too.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for joining the conversation this morning. That's where we'll leave it. We will now hand you over to